comfortable pillow where I can lay my head. I need somewhere that I can call home that has more than just a bed. I need a welcome mat and a calico cat, someone to chew the fat, and I'm so happy to be home. I was so far away that every day just started to seem the same. You can run, but you can't hide from all the things you buried deep inside. Sometimes you gotta let it out, and right now I just wanna sit here and shout. I'm so happy to be home, 'cause I'm so happy to be home. I said I'm so happy to be home.
I think it's very difficult for veterans to come back, especially who've been over there for like 15 months, 16 months, because we definitely have these chemical imbalances. Like overseas, you have this adrenaline, and you have, you know, all these hormones of fight or flight going back, you know, at an all-time level high in your body. And so when you come back to make that adjustment and just kind of like crash down to normal life, it's a problem. Like it's not a gradual process. Like, you know, 1 minute you're in Iraq and the next minute you're back home and you're like, wait a minute, you know, like I was on alert 24/7. I fucking could have died, and all of a sudden I'm back home and it's everything's supposed to be normal. I don't understand.
I was drinking. I mean, I was drinking a lot, you know. Yeah, just basic destructive behavior, you know, drinking, drugs, sleeping around with different women, and all that kind of stuff. Just anything to stimulate yourself, to get your mind off of whatever it is that you don't want to face. I'm sure I was capable of killing myself. I'm sure I was capable of doing something violent to someone in the command. That was my mentality at that point.
When Jeff was coming back in his unit, the Marines basically were advising people that there would be readjustment issues. But the feeling's indescribable. It's like maybe being at the second birth of your son. I mean, that's what it was like. There was a joy. I don't express emotions well, except maybe anger. But yet Jeff and I, we knew. I just hugged him, and I said, thank God.
As far as any questions, I don't recall asking him any real questions. He drove in the car with his sisters home, because we had my parents in our car. And Debbie would be a good one to talk to about that, because I know she is one of them that asked him what he did over there. And then she said as soon as it came out of her mouth, because he just gave her a look.
Okay, you have one more person that's coming in, and he's going to start.
Squad, attention. At close interval, dress right press. Ready front. First rank, prepare for weapons inspection. Inspect weapons.
I tried to open up to a few officers when I came back, and I might not have spoke to the right officers because I was getting a lot of, I tried to express some of my anger, because that's what I was feeling when it came to anger. I was getting shot down. People were saying that, no, we needed to be there. How can you talk against our president? So I didn't talk about it anymore. But within the first few days, I remember hearing a radio call of a veteran contemplating suicide, and the call was they needed assistance over there, possible suicide. And they said he's a veteran, he's an Iraq veteran. And I heard that, and I was like, oh my God, I need to be there.
I just wanted to talk to somebody. That was it. I just wanted to talk to somebody. I remember one night spending 3 or 4 hours on the phone from between 1 o'clock in the morning till 3 or 4 in the morning. Just calling suicide hotlines because I just wanted to talk to somebody. I didn't want to kill myself. I just wanted to talk to somebody without giving them all types of paperwork and without, taking a week and a half for some doctor to call me back and recommend some group that I don't want to be in. I just want to have somebody that I can call 24 hours a day when I'm feeling really down and I want somebody to talk to. And I just haven't felt like that is at all something that is provided. And it might be, but I don't know why I feel like it's not provided. Like, why don't I feel like that's provided? Even if it is provided, why don't I know about it? I've been out of the Marine Corps for 2 years. I drank myself to the point of almost death. I almost ended up on the street homeless, and for some reason, I don't have somebody's number that I can call 24 hours a day.
This particular bridge we're about to cross, in the middle of this, my mind is just going a mile a minute, and I don't want to go to this freaking class, and I didn't want to go to the VA and the Veterans Administration, and all of a sudden I get caught on this bridge in the stoplight, and I look to my left and I see this open railroad track. I look to my right, and there's this burnt out, old, rusty old factory, and I realize I'm in just a perfect ambush position. If I was in, suddenly it's like I'm in a convoy in Iraq, and I'm the vulnerable one. If I was an insurgent, I would be hiding along the tree line of that railroad track. You could pop out, shoot an RPG, and then be gone before anybody knew anything. And so my first instinct is to just get out of there as fast as humanly possible, but I can't because I'm boxed in. So I'm telling myself, calm down, Jason, just take some deep breaths. But then my heart is pounding. I'm sweating. I'm nauseous. I don't know why I get nauseous after I get overly hypervigilant or after I get a rush of adrenaline. And just even talking about it now makes me want to throw up. And so, luckily we've moved, but this is where I had to drive, and I don't know if I can slow down. There's nobody behind me, but there's a perfect... If you were in a convoy and you were to be stopped right on this part of the bridge, you look left, there's just a perfect angle. It just was just not a good place to be. So... This is the Veterans Administration, and we'll take a right up here and show you that. Well, when you have to come up to this big building, and it's depressing because, I mean, you go in here and there's just people missing their arms, and there's people with burns on their faces, and it's not very friendly. And you have to try and find parking, and this is the valet person, and if you were to go in there, there's no front desk to go to. There's no person to talk to. Several times I just walked right back out. I wasn't getting any help from the Veterans Administration, and I've had to go to a food pantry to get food because I couldn't hold down a job, and it's hard to explain to people. You don't want to explain to them. You wish they could just see it. I don't have a job because I can't predict when I'll sleep. I don't have a job because sometimes I just can't leave the house. I don't have a job because on this bridge, I'll flip out. I might get trapped in this light.
During one surgical case, I got really hot flash and started sweating, couldn't get my breath, and so I had to break out of surgery, almost passed out, and just catch my breath, and I didn't think anything of it. Just thought, okay, everything's cool, I'm all right. When I got home 30 days later, that feeling woke me back up, and so what I'm remembering now, and after that, basically I had been sick. And I was trying to explain to them, I'm not doing so well here. I don't know what to explain it. I don't know anything. And so eventually I finally went to my boss and I looked at her and I said, look, I need some help. Before I had the heart attack, was it a couple days before?
Yes.
Yeah. Before I had the heart attack, I said, I need some help. And I broke down and cried. And I said, you know, I'm having a problem and I'm so angry. I need to go see somebody. Now, the funny thing, I'm in a medical unit. I'm at Naval Medical Center San Diego, one of the largest medical hospital in the world. and I couldn't get help. I would go to the mental health unit. Now, I knew all these people because they were in Iraq with me. So I filled out, yes, I want to kill people. No, I don't want to hurt myself, but I want to kill all y'all. And then everything else, just going right down the list. Nobody ever called me. Nobody ever did anything from the mental health unit. These were people that I knew. They were afraid of how to talk to us about it. I mean, if you look around, when's the last time we had a bunch of people who were in PTSD? Vietnam. And how did they deal with it then? Not very well. They tried, but not very well. And how do you deal with it? So now you haven't had anybody trained up really in PTSD to that type of magnitude who are going on multiple deployments and seeing that much death. How do you train people up for it? So they're more worried because PTSD doesn't sell. What sells is schizophrenia, because you can put many a medication on that. Bipolar disease sells, because you got medication for that. PTSD, depression, which most people aren't, you know, they need to pick themselves up and they need to go. PTSD manifests in a way, so many different ways. In my instance, it's not about shooting. It's not about explosions. It's not about all of that. It's about the kids. Everybody manifests it differently. You know, you can have a 20-year-old kid who's coming back because of what he saw around him as things being blown up. I've seen that. That doesn't bother me. You know, or an older sergeant who is because of all the kids he sent out, and take the unit from Ohio. Half their unit got killed. Well, if you don't think their commanding officer has PTSD, yeah, he was in charge.
I think it's really difficult for spouses. We try to pretend that everything's okay when our husbands and wives and loved ones are in a war zone. And I think that we feel everything comes back together the way it was. And learning to understand that nothing is ever going to be the same, and really making a commitment to the healing that has to take place is an enormous task. And just like David was saying that there was no help for him, there's very, very limited help for families. And again, you know, I'm talking about the times he was deployed. Things may be a little bit different now, but I still, you know, I look back and I look at other wives when they're being interviewed, and I see the stories and I hear them, and the sad thing is that no matter how many years go by, the story ends the same way. It's war, and it's not pretty, and it's devastating.
I feel empty of my own accord. I feel lonely and extremely bored, like the only thing left to do is drink. I get to drinking, I get to thinking, this ain't the way that I wanna live. This is the last time. Get the best of me.
We compare PTSD now as a cancer of the spirit, where the first symptom may show up to be a mole, a discoloration on the skin, But then it spreads, and it spreads to all different aspects of the life, but it spreads slowly. So one of the problems is that with the onset of all the symptoms, well, comes the onset of all the defense that a family will use, trying to keep their balance of the perception of their son. And that's what happened.
And Jeff was also still attending his weekends at in New Haven with his unit, and they noticed nothing. Nothing. It was Jeff, as far as we were told anyway. They didn't pick up anything. He could mask it. He was there for 2 days, and he was able to be Jeff. You know, and they said he was always did what he was told, always offered to help. Nothing ever changed. He was the Jeffrey that they knew at that time.
The civilian doctors and the doctors in Chicago knew that there was a serious problem. They recognized PTSD. They knew what it was all about. The base, on the other hand, you know, their command, they were completely hostile towards the doctors in Chicago. You know, and they wanted me back to train. They wanted to deploy me. I mean, they needed bodies. That's what it all boiled down to. I mean, they needed the numbers to go back over. So they included me in those numbers. You know, they knew. They said, we need X amount of people to go over there.
But ultimately what treatment is in the Marine Corps is you go to the chaplain who tells you that Jesus will save your soul if you accept him. And then you go to the wizard, is what we call him. And he's the battalion psychiatrist. And he medicates you and gets you out the door. And that was it. That was the bottom line. I never had anyone to talk to. No one ever talked to me. And whenever I did try to talk about it, it was constantly, well, just take more or less of the medication or do this or do that. And when I tried to get some sort of therapy from him, it turned into a political debate about the legality of the war, because I just wanted to talk about how I felt morally wrong for killing, and he wanted to demand that I was right and just. And ultimately, I just wanted him to shut up and listen. And all I'm getting is right-wing Christian propaganda about how the Bible says thou shalt not murder, not thou shalt not kill, and it's completely okay to kill the enemy, and these people killed thousands of people in 9/11, and so it's our job as Marines to man up and be a part of this war, and that was my therapy in the Marine Corps.
I liken it to that comedic scene where you open the closet and shit starts falling out and you start trying to put stuff in it, and, you know, it's like more stuff keeps falling out. When you're over there, there was a lot of stuff that happened that was just, to me personally, was very, very saddening, and there was no time to process it. And I couldn't cry about it, or I couldn't weep, because I would have been, you know, considered a pussy. And you have to be in the group, you know. It's like a pecking order. You lose your position, and it's dangerous. So you just kind of stuff it all down, and then you get home, and it starts knocking on the door and says, you know, we'd like to talk. But you open that door to converse with this emotion, and it's gigantic, and it's huge, and it comes at you, and never in my life have I had emotions that I couldn't control to some degree. And the other problem is you can't always point your finger to what is causing it.
I have night terrors of things that I didn't really remember for a while. I have nightmares, and sometimes my anxiety is so much I can't even get to sleep. I can't even get to sleep because I'm so scared of the nightmares. It's every single time I go to a movie theater on an opening night. It's every single time I come down here to Venice Beach and I walk in the huge crowded market with a bunch of people that I don't know, and it reminds me of the souk marketplace in Ramadi where they would sell their animals and snipers would take shots at us, and it's just, PTSD is an ongoing struggle. It's post-traumatic stress syndrome will follow you everywhere you go.
I'd like to find you. This is the best I've been at. This is good relative to, and mind you, I didn't have to take anything but a multivitamin. This is every visit to the doctor. These are from the claims I had to file. This is my medical record from the VA. Medication. So here's all the medications. I don't even know what it is. Gabapentin, fluoxetine, divaproxil, propine, Venaflax, oxymethod, just endless crap. These are all medications that they've tried me on. Bupropion, lamotrigine. It's like they're fucking candy, just giving them to me. Take this and call me back, and then you take one and you can't get an erection. Well, that doesn't work with your wife. And then you take another one and then you can't come. That doesn't work with your wife. And then you take another one and everything's fine except you have no saliva in your mouth. And I can't explain how frustrating it is. That list I showed you was the trial and error of 6 years of just, try this, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. And finally, they found one that doesn't affect me sexually and can help. But 1 out of 1,000 people that take this develop a rash that can become deadly. So that's fun. And then basically, this is the game we play now. In the morning, because I don't get any sleep, I take methamphetamine, speed. And then in the evening, if I can't sleep, I take Valium. And so I go back and forth. And that's this is my daily dose of stuff. This is my reward. This is my red badge of courage. This is my,
He was afraid to sleep because he was experiencing the hallucinations, the camel spiders. In fact, I think one night he went out and had Joyce look up camel spiders on the computer.
Yeah. Picture of this huge kind of furry creature. And then he was telling me how they jump and whatever. Little did I know that he was seeing them in his room and he was using his flashlight at night every time he could hear them. We didn't know that. We were just a few rooms away from him, the things that we didn't know at the time that were happening. And right after that, things were coming along slowly. He had the nightmare. I heard him yell at night, and I went to his room, and it was like midnight, and he said, "Oh, fuck." And that was the door, because I said, "Jeffrey, you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, Mom, I'm fine." And then he came out for something to drink, and he said, I was dreaming. He said they were coming after me in the alleyway. And then he went back to bed.
It was like he had tunnel vision, couldn't see anything else except what was in his eyes, in his mind. And the other thing is that It's not just the eyes. I mean, the eyes were empty. But if you listen to the voice, it was a whisper. The tone was, for the lack of a better word, vague. And it was like he was thinking out loud, but he didn't want those thoughts. And a lot of times I would just say, "You okay?" And he wouldn't answer. A couple of times, tears welled up, tears filled his eyes and went down his face. But otherwise, I didn't know what to do. And then afterwards, he would get up. You know, but it's a strange, frightening experience, because Jeff was making all of us feel totally powerless. But yet, at the same time, he was totally powerless.
There is a new president of Iraq Veterans Against the War, a soldier in the Army, Wendy Barranco.
I don't really have anything prepared, to be a little honest with you. I'm a little overwhelmed just being here among you. I joined at 17 and I deployed to Iraq. I was 19 years old. I worked in the operating room of a combat support hospital, and I was in charge of putting soldiers and Iraqi civilians to sleep during surgery, waking them up, pushing drugs, making sure that they didn't feel any pain. A lot of them were in very serious condition, blown up by IEDs, shot multiple times. A lot of them didn't make it to the operating room. A lot of them died in the emergency room. A lot of them were my age, 19, 20-year-olds. You know, the first guy I saw die, I'm sorry. The first guy I saw die was 19. And after we did everything we could to save him, he didn't make it. During that time, while I was working on him, I busted my ass for him, and I gave 200% for this soldier's life. I did everything I could. The doctors did too, the nurses did. Sometimes you just gotta let him go. After he was called, I stood back and I wondered, you know, maybe, how's his mom gonna feel? How's his dad gonna feel? Does he have kids? Does he have a brother? A sister? It's hard for me to be among you here today because I know that many of you are brothers, are sisters, are mothers, are fathers. And a lot of times I think I would have rather gone rather than to leave a father
and a mother with children, because I don't have any. Please take comfort, family members and veterans, that I gave to 100%. And the rest of my medical comrades, we gave 200%. To save your son, to save your daughter, to save your brother, and to save your sister. Many of these crosses here, I know them. They came across my operating room table. That's all I got.
That day, I don't know. If she hadn't held me up, I probably would have crumbled. Like, I was already crumbling in, like, that moment when I was there, and then she just came and, like, just was there, like, her presence, and then that's it. Like, I mean, obviously I wasn't holding it together, but, you know, I was able to, like, walk off and be okay, so.
You were very powerful, though.
Thank you.
It reached a lot of people, you know, and that pain is hard to put out there.
It is, especially, like, this is why I don't like coming here. This is why I don't come here, because this whole, it's too much, and, like, I just can't help but think, like, how many of these, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna go into it.
I know. But I got your back.
I know, right?
And you got mine, you know? It's the way it works. So do what we can each day. So
But
people
we're
know.
so broken, dude. Like,
yeah,
we're so fucking broken. It's not even funny. Like, people don't understand just the fucking struggle it is. Like, to go out, to leave your fucking home and walk the fucking street and be okay with it. Like, it's a struggle. People don't fucking understand that, and it's unfortunate that they'll never be able to grasp that. They just won't. No matter how many fucking veterans they talk to, nothing. I mean, and it's not a new thing.
No.
Fucking Vietnam veterans are the same way. All fucking veterans.
Yeah. Just some keep the closet door shut. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you make a difference, because it's all of those pieces fit together that create the change. And it changes people's hearts, and people do maybe understand a small piece. They can't walk in your shoes.
I fucking hope so.
Yeah.
I fucking hate people. Fucking hate people.
I love you, sister.
How you doing, buddy?
In 2003, as I'm sitting in the tents and everything else getting ready to move up, I'm listening to people who are telling me, who are trying to teach us, oh, this is what trauma is going to be like. This is what war is going to be like. And I'm sitting in this room full of all these medical officers, and I'm just sitting in the back, and I got angry. And I stood up, and I threw something down, and I just looked at all of them and said, what the hell are you talking about? None of you have been to war. How the hell are you describing what war is if you haven't seen it? Sorry. Okay, I'm better. So I threw it down. I told him the 2 rules of war. And I also told them their first patient would be the most gut-wrenching. If you take an auto accident and multiply it times 10, or 20. It's worse than that. So, they weren't prepared. They were not ready for it. All the training they had done, even at the trauma centers here in the United States and everything else, can't prepare you for that. Can't prepare you for a kid coming in with half his head missing, and he's talking to you and begging you to keep him alive. Or you have 30 of them that come in, and you have to put some to the side while you work on the ones you know you can save. And then when you get done, after 30 some odd hours, and there's that one kid that's still sitting off to the side who's still alive. And you bring him back. And I packed his brains back in and his head, but got him back home so he could die here. Who was 18 and jumped on a grenade to save his buddies. He won the Medal of Honor. And he made it home to see his parents. But people don't understand when they say, oh, it's going to be like this. They didn't. And they didn't ask me. And they didn't ask me to teach it. So I took it over, but I was angry.
I'm being shown around. I'm in my section. I work in the laboratory. And the sergeant that was in there was showing me all my equipment, getting me trained. And as we're sitting there talking, then all of a sudden I hear loud booms. I mean, boom, boom, and then the ground is shaking. You know what that is. I mean, they didn't have to tell me what that was. That was a mortar. That was my first real mortar. We both jumped up. She's like, grab your gear, let's get out of here. It's not safe in here. Because we were in a small, like, mobile unit that was outside on the ground. She's like, this is not safe for mortars. They'll go right through this mobile. So we went inside one of the fixed facilities, and everybody was gathered there. They're doing a head count. Mortars are still landing. You can hear them. And then all of a sudden, trucks are driving up to the front of the hospital, and they're just dumping off bodies. The mortars were actually landing on the prisoner's side. And we were told not to go outside, but I was standing in the doorway, and I just see a sea of men screaming in pain, you know, and these aren't cuts, these are like amputations. These are like eviscerations. They're disembowelments. These are the horrific injuries that we're seeing. I'd never seen anything like that, and I used to be a nurse, but I never worked trauma. This is all trauma. I was staring at a man, and he didn't say anything. He just had this glassy look over his face, and his foot was hanging. It looked like it was hanging by a small piece of tissue. And I'm like, God, he's not even screaming in pain. His foot is just hanging there.
Sometimes you can bandage your wounds, wipe the sweat from your brow and put your gun down, and take your boots off. Oh, and take your boots off. It's not so easy to bury these scars of war, forever in the sands of Iraq. The smell of bleach burns my eyes as I try to justify and wash this blood from my hands. For I was just a boy, the first time I killed a man. If only I had known I would lose a part of my soul to live forever, never hope. Running from everything, but I'm too lost to find anything. Sometimes you can't bandage your wounds, wipe the sweat from your brow and put your gun down and take your boots off. Oh, and take your boots off.
On several occasions, our convoy came across bodies that had been decapitated and were lying on the side of the road. On one specific occasion, I had shot a man in the back of the head after we saw him planting an IED device. We pulled his body out of the ditch he was lying in and left it to rot in the field. We saw the body again 2 weeks later. There were also pictures taken of this gentleman, and his picture became the screensaver on a laptop belonging to one of our more motivated Marines. The larger point that I'd like to touch on is that these are the consequences for sending young men and women into battle. These are the things that happen in war. And what I'd like to ask anyone who's viewing this testimony is to imagine your loved ones put in such positions. Your brothers, your sisters, your nieces, your nephews, your aunts, and your uncles. But more importantly, and maybe most importantly of all, to be able to put ourselves in the Iraqi shoes who've encountered these events every day for the last 7 years.
We had some soldiers who would do some really nasty things. They played this game that they used the yellow tape, right? If that kid comes under that yellow tape that I described, you're allowed to butt stroke him in the head. They can't come in. You could physically abuse that kid. You know, this is the standing rule. The kids know this. So the soldiers would take a $20 bill and they'd bury it in the sand with just a little bit of the leaf hanging out inside the yellow tape, just inside the yellow tape. And then they'd go hide behind the trucks and just kind of pretend like they weren't watching. And then that's a month's pay, 20 bucks for an Iraqi. So eventually some Iraqi kid comes and starts eyeing it up, and then as soon as he got under the tape to go get it, they'd come running out with their butts of their rifles. You know, it was like a game. They were trying to lure the kid in so they could hit him. I don't understand why, but...
Then I got another patient in, Iraq, EPW. And I'm looking at him, and I look at his ID, and I'm looking at his face, and his face looks flattened and like this wide. He's taped like this, more like this. Hands with 100-mile-an-hour tape and zip tied, and they're down like this. His legs are taped, and they bring him in, and his face all swollen, blood's coming out of his nose. I'm like, what happened? Oh, he was an EPW and he was captured. I'm like, but that doesn't explain this picture and that face. What happened? The young little Lance Corporal couldn't tell me. He was just a guard, you know. So we went and got our portable x-ray machine and we took x-rays and his arms were broken. But broken right after where he was taped and everything else. And then I'm looking at his face and all the bones in his face are broken and I'm like, this guy was beat, plain and simple. So I'm asking and nobody's giving me any answers. I'm like, somebody beat the hell out of this guy. He's an EPW, I don't care. You don't beat the hell out of him once you have him restrained, period. You can't do that. And when we allow that to happen, that's what makes us bad. That's what makes people hate us. And yeah, so that's why I fight the system. That's why I love the military. The rules were there for a reason. To circumvent them is crap. And to say it's easier, yeah, it is easier. But it's not right. Do it right. Period.
Before I start today, I would like to say that I'm sharing my story because I'm a patriotic American and I love my country. From the moment I landed on deck in Ramadi, I was so filled with hate for the very people that we were there to help that I was 100% blinded and 100% numb to reality. I used to lay in bed at night and hope the next day would bring me a firefight where I could kill hundreds of people and show my fellow Marines that I was as tough as them and that I was a hero too. Try to imagine yourself tonight as you sleep warm in your bed with your wife and your children. 2 a.m., the door is kicked in and men are screaming. As they kick open your bedroom door, they're screaming in a language that you don't understand and they're pointing machine guns at your face. They drag you by your hair from your bed, slamming your face down into the floor with their boots on the back of your neck. You struggle to protect your family is futile. A scene like this was nothing more than a Tuesday to me. I laughed as I heard a story. One of the platoons had strapped dead bodies from a gunfight to the hoods of their Humvees, and it drove around the city for hours. Just another Tuesday to me. One Tuesday, they brought in a car that had just been shot up. The driver's fully intact brain was sitting in the back seat of the car. I walked over to the body bag with the passenger in it. The bag began twitching, and we could hear his body still attempting to breathe. We laughed as we stomped the bag. Just another Tuesday to me. These are just some of the Tuesdays in a full 7-day calendar.
Okay. You can do it with a permanent marker if you want.
Well, how long do you think it's going to take before the average American gets the full scope of what happened?
You know, there's a lot of really good books out there. And when my opinion started changing, it was when I was out there and I was reading an article in Esquire about how we got into this war. And I was shocked. I was shocked at how easy we got into this war and all the bad information and how they try to make the pieces fit to create this war. And they're creating demons out of this, you know, of the Muslim people that we need to fear them, we can't trust them. I never saw them that way.
I think it's fair to say, though, that there are saints and sinners on both sides, though, right? I mean...
Yeah, they're right. There's opportunists...
We're dying over there, too, you know what I mean?
We're dying over there, but we're also creating a lot of them.
Right.
You know? There's a lot of innocent men that are being dragged from their homes and put in prison. And their families have to fend for themselves. And you don't think you would come out angry?
Right.
You don't think you would join the cause?
Right.
You know?
Especially in your homeland?
In your own homeland, right. So I think we create a lot of it.
Yeah, where do you draw the line between resistance and terrorists?
Right.
Where do you draw the line between somebody who is doing what they think to protect their family, their way of life, their people, or somebody who's an axis of evil?
You don't know. This is not a war where we, they all wear the same uniform. They all, you don't know. You don't know who the enemy is.
And what does it mean? I know salam means peace. And like, how do you think the peace and the U.S. Army, like, you have this juxtaposition here of two very different kind of concepts?
Well, the U.S. Army is me as a soldier. And making peace with the Iraqis, making peace with the country as a whole.
Right. Do you look at it in terms of making peace necessarily with yourself and what your role was there? I mean, because you were put in a very difficult position, right?
Yeah.
So does any part of this represent you making peace with the position that you were put in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the peace with what I saw, what I witnessed our people doing to that country. It's my personal apology in extending the olive branch. That's what it is.
The change happened when we got there. We were in Kuwait. We were convoying into Iraq, and they said that if there was any children, there's children in the roads, and if any of them got in our way, we were going to run them over. We were ordered not to stop. And I look around, and I'm the only one who's in the slightest bit perturbed, and which made me feel kind of weird, kind of shocked. I spent the night, I didn't sleep, and I'm like, I can't. I can't. I physically cannot. If I see a child, I have a 3-year-old at home. If I see a kid run in front of me, in front of the convoy, I should stop. Furthermore, it's their country. You know, the idea is that it's going to be an ambush. They're going to send a kid into the road, the convoy will stop, and we'll get shot at. And in my mind, I'm thinking, then let's get shot at. I'd rather die fighting an insurgent than live with running over an innocent kid, because not every kid that runs across the road is part of a convoy. So I went to tell my chain of command, and I said, you know, I can't. And after about a 5-hour argument of them hearing me say I won't, and I had to explain to them I'm saying I can't, and they kept hearing I won't. Like, I won't follow this order. And I was trying to explain to them, no, you don't understand. I can't. If a kid runs in a road, I'll stop. And if that gets people killed, then that's your fault, because I'm telling you right now, I can't. I cannot do it. And so they stuck me in the rear of the convoy, which was the most dangerous spot of the convoy. And that just kind of, there I am in Iraq now. It's too late to back out. I'm thinking I'm going to protect my country. And then it's just a series of, you know, they don't understand. If you run over someone's child, what do you think they're going to do? And they would ask him straight up, what would you do if someone ran over your kid? Oh, I'd hunt them down, and these are Northwoods people, you know, from northern Wisconsin. They all have rifles at home and rifle racks in their trucks. Well, you know, what would you do if someone ran over your child? Well, I'd hunt them down and kill them. I'd track them to the ends of the earth and slit their throat. It's like, what the fuck do you think they're going to do when we hit their kid? And, but we're building them a school, or we're fixing their road. Well, is that okay if I kill your grandma to fix your road? I mean, they just couldn't fathom it. And in doing these actions, we're creating the very insurgency that we're fighting against. So each day just got progressively to be, I literally felt like I was in an alternative universe. That I just couldn't fathom that you have to be kidding me. And someone would come back and I'd hear some story about something that someone did and the way they treated a civilian, and I'm like, you have to be an idiot. I almost, for a while, I was convinced that this was by design. That it had to be some mad genius who said, we need a perpetual war that will never end, and how can we make that happen? And we'll treat the civilians like this, because it just seems so idiotic. And that's when I just started going numb, and I was worried. And I cared about the people I was serving with, and I was trying to convince them that you don't want to treat these people like this. It's not, it may seem, it's like this mob mentality. Right now it's okay, but when you get home, one day you're going to be holding your grandkid on your knee, and you're going to think about how you treated these people. And the day that they said that they probably weren't, maybe not weapons of mass destruction, basically admitted to the lie, and everybody just kept on working like nothing had happened. And I literally, I felt like I was, like, I don't know, in some pseudo world where everyone was drugged except me. Did you hear that? They just said that. Did you guys read that in the paper? There are no weapons of mass destruction. We were totally lied to and manipulated. Does anybody give a fuck? You know, just shut up, Moon, and keep driving the truck.
I was told that there was going to be a scandal coming up. Get ready. They haven't announced, and that was all the details I got. There's something big is going to happen. It's going to be all over, and, you know. So the first week I was there, I remember sitting down in the mess hall, and they had big TV screens for us to watch, and they had CBS News up there. And as I'm sitting there, Dan Rather comes on, does a sound bite, saying that Abu Ghraib prison, then they started flashing photos of the prisoners, you know, in various states. And I remember the people that were around me, Marines, contractors, interrogators, everyone busted out laughing. They were looking at these images and they were laughing. It was like, and I'm looking around and I'm like, that's not funny. I'm thinking to myself, that's not funny. This is sick. This is sick. You know? That's hard to take sometimes, to be associated with a crime that you had nothing to do with. And sometimes you feel like you got to bear the I lost for words right now. Like we have to carry the shame of what happened there, you know, what other people did.
All right. In older civilizations, veterans and, you know, when they'd come back from battle, like they would live in veteran communities. They weren't expected to go live with civilian population. And my argument to people all the time was, if you murder someone or if you kill someone in this society, there's only two places that you're gonna go. You're either gonna go to jail for the rest of your life or for a significant amount of time, or you're gonna go to a mental institution for a long time. The only people who are expected to kill on a daily basis and then come adjust back to civilian life are, you know, veterans. That's, you know, that to me is crazy. There's gotta be some kind of a transition period. And even if you're not, you know, killing people, whatever you're doing, you know, being at Guantanamo Bay, whatever, being a fucking, you know, an MP officer or an interrogator, you know, anyone who's had to live through that and then to come live or be expected to just get a job and, you know.
After each battle, Native Americans would come back, the warriors, the fighters, and for 4 days, they would just consume psychedelics, whichever they were, without eating, just drinking water, hydrating, but no eating. And for those 4 days, they would dance and cry and just go through, just kind of cleanse themselves out of all the pain, all the suffering that they went through during that fire. So, and if after that ceremony, if for example a warrior was not ready to go back into the tribe, he would stay there for a longer period and do it because they did not want to kind of infect their tribe with horrors of, you know, of, I guess, necessities of life, you know.
But in those cultures, they knew. Like, they knew that when they were at war, they knew what was going on, you know. they knew that those people were making those sacrifices for certain reasons. And it's just now, they don't want people to know what, I mean, what are they, you know? I mean, if they force people to think about what the sacrifices are being made for, then more people would be against the war because they would be forced to think about what it is that's going on. Now people aren't against the war because there's no draft. So, you know, 1/3 of 1% of the population in this country are the people who are fighting this war. So nobody knows about it. You know, it doesn't affect them.
And I've spent the last 2 years of my life and basically everything since I got out of the military traveling around, you know, with my whole life packed into a suitcase. And it's taken every fucking minute of that time to piece myself together. You know, it's taken years. It's taken years. And there's no way I could have done that if I were working a job and living a normal life. It took a complete abstraction of life, and it took a complete withdrawal from society to give me this time. And I'm nowhere done yet. You know, this guy spent a decade. I'm going on a couple of years, and it's probably going to be a decade, and it's probably I mean, we see it when we go to the DAV. This is a lifelong thing. Every veteran I've ever met has been like, this is, you know, this is here for good. Yeah. I mean, this is not something that you are going to be able to ever soon. Wish away. You are part of this club, and that shit never washes off, you know?
When the road that you look upon is so very far away, and you hear your worst enemy in every word you say, when the light shines so dim that you cannot see your hands, letting go is the only way you know to escape the pain. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Something like that. That one still needs some work because it's hard to play with it. It's hard to sing it because every time I sing it, I'm like, wow, that was a horrible place I was at when I wrote that, and then when I'm reminded of it, and then I'm like, I don't want to be there anymore. And maybe the further I stay away from that song, the further I'll stay away from that place. But I would like to finish writing it someday and just kind of smooth out the edges. I like the flow of it. It's kind of like you're screaming, you know, it's like it's a rant, you know, of, I don't know. Just when you have just nowhere else to turn, you know, and it's, one of my favorite lines is because one of the things that happens with PTSD is the things that used to make you very happy, they don't have the same effect. And it's very troubling. It says the simple things that used to make you smile, and now you say, hell, it's been a long, long while since I felt so good like I knew I should, like I thought I would one day. And then the next line is about the self-destructive behavior. When you've given up and you've given in and you lost your life to a ball of sin, and you just can't win no matter how you try. You fall on your knees and you start to cry. I just like the way it
goes, but there's not much else I don't know. When I wrote it, it was a very desperate time, I guess. I think this was about 1.5 years before I attempted suicide. Okay, I'll get it this time, I promise.
Given up and you given in and you lost your life to a ball of sin, and you just can't win no matter how you try. You crawl on your knees and you begin to cry, and I say, hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day.
It was a Friday night. Jeff went to bed, and we had given him the medication. At that point, we were handing him out, I believe, the medication because we didn't want him to take more than he was supposed to. And he had gone to bed, we thought, and then his sister called and said, do you know where your son is, Mom? I'm the one that answered the phone. And I said, yeah, he's in bed. And she said, go take a look. So we went, and he wasn't in bed. So I said, Debbie, he's not there. And she said, I know. She said, he's in Heidi Mueller's car, which is a neighbor down the street. He had gotten in, I don't know the complete story because I never spoke to Heidi, but from what we heard, he had gotten into her car when it was in their driveway, I believe, and she had another girl with her, and he wanted them to take him to a store and so he could get some beer. And Heidi was really, she was very uptight because Jeffrey was in military gear. He had 2 K-bars. He had a pellet gun, modified pellet gun. And that wasn't Jeffrey. And she called Debbie. She says, I got your brother in the car. I don't know what to do with him. So that's when Debbie said, just bring him to my parents' house. Because apparently they must have gone out for the ride, obviously because he came home with a beer. So he did get his beer. And they came back. And we went out. I think, I don't know if I went out first. I believe I went out. I was going along the side of the house, and I saw him get out of the car, and it was horror. It was scary. It was surreal. He was dressed in his uniform, which he never did, in his camis, and I don't know. He looked like he was ready to go off to war. It was really, but he had this sad look on his face. It was expression of, I did it again, and just that little sad smile. There was no, you weren't scared of him. There was no fear. He didn't, but then you came out.
Well, I came out, and it was about midnight, and I don't know what happened. I broke. I just got so angry. And, again, I think it was feeling powerless, feeling embarrassed. It wasn't feeling good. And I went up to the girls and I thanked them. As soon as they backed out, I grabbed that beer. I grabbed that beer out of his hands so fast. And I started throwing bottles against the tree, smashing it. And just saying, what in hell are you doing? And Joyce came up to me, I think, and grabbed a couple of beers away from me. And I was furious. I was just, all I could feel was rage. And I really don't know why.
This was the whole walk that I actually was listening to the song And I remember stopping back over there. Just kind of went, you know, you kind of stop and just look at him, and it was really, you don't know what to say. You know, I guess you don't really say anything aside from, you know, you just look at him, and I remember I could feel it in my stomach. You know, you get nervous, and I don't know. He denied it, but obviously that's what he was thinking the whole time. You know, that, and he was letting us know, and he played it for you too, correct?
Yeah, he played it for us all separately.
Yeah, this was everybody but your dad.
Yep. 45.
45. And with the words that I had mentioned earlier of whatever happened to the young man's heart, swallowed with pain as he slowly fell apart. And I'm looking down the barrel of a 45. And it has other words to it that are also, you know, swimming through the ashes of another life. So if you go on through the song, all the words have kind of the same kind of direction. You know, to me, it's of death. And he was in this darkness. He was, you know, a real darkness that he didn't know any other way out of. So.
We used to come down here a lot. I started coming down here was because he would help me sneak out of the house with him when we'd go meet our friends. And there used to be a bridge right there. And we'd just come out here and sit on the bridge, and there's a train that goes up above so we could tell what time it was, because it used to run around there around 1 o'clock or so. And it was just nice. He was talking about bumps in the road, and he stated that because he was a convoy driver, he was told not to stop for anything because it would put him and whoever was in his convoy in danger, and that meant even children. So if a child was in front, he was supposed to just keep going. And he had stated to me that when he asked his higher up, how do I deal with that, he was told, just don't look back. And then that was it. He also talked about shooting two Iraqi soldiers at close range. And he would make these statements, and then he would just stop, and it would be silent. Because what am I supposed to respond? I have no idea. And I think a lot of people are going to be in that situation, that are in that situation and have been for all the wars. When you have your loved ones coming home and they're trying their best to explain to you the trouble that they're going through and the torture, and it's got to be so frustrating that we can't understand. At least I know I couldn't.
And from what we were told, and from what he said to you, he never told me, but what he said to his sister and his dad was that he was ordered to shoot.
And he said that he had closed his eyes because somebody who I'm assuming is a higher up came up behind him and said, pull the fucking trigger, Lucy. And he said he closed his eyes and he just shot. And that's how he did that.
Yes, he has 2 dog tags. From what he said, that these are dog tags of 2 Iraqi soldiers that he feels personally responsible for their deaths. And they were, how do you say, Jeffrey wore these around his neck to honor these men. It wasn't a trophy, you know, it was to honor them. That's why he carried this with him. And I think it was to remind himself every day, which is why Julie, his girlfriend, I think, was trying to get these off of him. It reminded him every day of what he did.
He was just too far gone that day. And at one point he was sitting at the kitchen table and he was talking to a staff from the VA hospital on the phone. And I was looking at him, and all of a sudden he just reached out and gave the phone to me. And then he took it back and said, here, talk to my little sister. She graduated today, and gave me the phone. And so I took the phone and I went outside and talked to this gentleman who was on the phone and told him that this is on June 5th. And I said, if you don't help my brother, he's not going to be here at this time next month. That was June 5th that I told him that, and on July 5th he wasn't. And I was on the steps and I told him that Jeff told me about the rope in the tree he had picked out and that we needed help. And they told me, just get him here. Just get him here. So at that point, I went back inside and everybody was trying to talk Jeff into going. And when we got to the VA, Jeff talked to the gentleman. And at one point, and I guess it's the thing that just shocked me, and I know it wasn't this particular person, but the way the system is set up. But the staff asked him if he got rid of the rope yet. And my brother's response to that was, shut up, shut up, shut up. He just put his hand up towards the guy's face and looked down, and he was just so passive, and it was so sad. And that was it. That was the end of that conversation. And I'm sitting here going, that response is not okay. And we sat out there for a while. And then finally the staff said, Jeff, you can either come in or you can go. And my sister was in tears. She was on the phone with my parents on and off. I was on the phone with my parents. I was almost in hysterics at one point going, we can't take him home like this. And I called and just said, he's coming back. They're sending him back home with us. My grandfather was so upset. It was sad. I remember my grandpa talking to people, just pleading with staff there to do something to get his grandson help. And you shouldn't have to plead for that. These are our veterans. They fought in a war. You shouldn't have to ask. And the hospitals and stuff shouldn't expect the soldiers to be able to ask, because Jeff couldn't. It wasn't that he didn't want it. He wasn't trying to leave. He wasn't mad. He was sitting there talking to everybody. And he wasn't even quick to leave when they said it. When they told him he had to go, he stayed there for a few minutes. And then he sauntered to the car. It wasn't like somebody who was cursing people out, and even if they do, look at what they've gone through and what they're still going through.
How do they expect a man to do the things that I have, come back and be the same? The things I've done that I regret, the things I've seen I won't forget, this life and so many more. And I'm trying to find my way home. The child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone, trying to find my way home. I have seen another side, another slice of the pie. Didn't seem too fair to me. People who did not deserve the sufferings that they incur. Freedom ought to be free. And I'm trying to find my way home. The child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone, trying to find my way home. Lately it's occurred to me, it's hard to fight an enemy that lives inside of your head. Spend my life in between the sleepless nights and the bad dreams. I think I might rather be dead. And I'm trying to find my way home. The child inside me, long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone, I'm trying to find my way home. How do they expect a man to do the things that I have, come back